So let's take a look at the Bourbonette Oaks. This is the female complement to the Jeff Ruby Stakes, run on Saturday's card at Turfway. It's the 11th race. It's run at 1 mile and a 16th on the all-weather, and it's for 3-year-old fillies. And incidentally, this is part of the Bayou Bluegrass, a special Pick 5 sequence, Turfway and Fairgrounds getting together for that. So be on the lookout for a separate posting on that. And Nolan Rogers, one of our loyal subscribers, asked for that. So you got it, Nolan. We're going to do it. So be on the lookout for that. We'll take a look at this field, and we'll see Alpine Princess, who is dual entered in the Fairgrounds Oaks. So we'll see where she runs. If it were me, I would be putting her in this race. I think it's a more favorable situation. And I'll, aside from the class of the field, I think it isn't quite as good as the Fairground Oaks. But there is another reason that we will get to. You've got Saratoga Secret from the coach. This is a horse who ran it too with some success, not a lot once she stretched out. We've got Everland and Maxi Superfly, a couple who have been running at Turfway at the allowance level and are making the foray into the graded stakes. We've also got Band of Gold, who had a kind of a subpar Honeybee Stakes, but did win the Martha Washington over at Oaklawn, and this will be her first foray onto synthetic. So it's an interesting field from that perspective. You've got the local horses going against the new shooters, and we'll take a look at them one at a time. Now, Maxi Superfly, Pink Polka Dots, and Alpine Princess, most notably, are ones that want to be up on the lead or near it. And that's important, and I'll give you a little something I looked into. One of the things about synthetic surface that we know is the colder it is, the better it is for early pace, because the track gets compacted and it's easier for them to carry their speed. Why do I mention that? Well, Saturday night it's supposed to be pretty cold at Turfway, and Maxi Superfly in her last race ran a really nice one and with improving class level and ran a career best on a track that was cold. And so it was a very favorable situation. Everland ran in that race, who had been doing pretty well and was one of the more favored horses, and didn't run a bad race, but was kind of up against it because she's a late runner. And the two of them had run in the race prior where it was warmer, and Everland won, and Maxi Superfly finished third. So I think there's some credence to that. And for that reason, I think Maxi Superfly can probably stay in this race a little longer. I like her familiarity over the track, and her fractions are a little better than Pink Polka Dots, who is moving to synthetic for the first time, coming from running on the turf at Gulfstream. She may have a chance, and if there's some value with Pink Polka Dots, maybe that's one to think about. But I like Maxi Superfly for the reasons stated, and I think this is a really good scenario for a horse to win it on the front end, so maybe has a shot. You'd certainly have to like Alpine Princess if she runs in that race for the same reason. She will be up near the race, has a bit of a class edge over some of these, and this is more a race, I think, attuned to Alpine Princess's best, being up near the lead in a field I think she can handle. So if Alpine Princess runs in this race, I think she'd probably be the one to beat. So Alpine Princess definitely, to me, is the pick because of her early pace presence, her little bit of a class edge, and the conditions are going to be right for a horse who likes to be up near the lead. Saratoga Secret came off the bench last time around 2 turns for the first time and really didn't do very much. Had some trouble early, got sandwiched at the break, but really didn't respond to it. And if you look at her overall record, it doesn't look like she's improved a whole lot from race to race. And I'm now going to a new surface where she is a little questionable around 2 turns, even though she's by Arrogate. I'm going to let her go, and she's going to have to prove it to me. And the price may be a little short, but more than anything else, I just don't think this race sets up very well for her. Winnable is a Kenny McPeek, and of course, you would never know with them from one race to the next. But winnable in her first start, ran a pretty solid race, but didn't beat anything at all at Turfway. And drew off nicely and showed a little bit of talent, but not at a class level that tells me she's ready to make a monster leap forward to win a stakes race, not particularly when you have horses like Alpine Princess in this race. So I'm going to let winnable go. Moving on up, to me, is one that came off the bench, did what you always want to see with a 3-year-old. The debut at 3 ran a career high, and has solid fractions to tell me that she can stay up closer to the pace in this race, and then if she can take another move forward, has a puncher's chance. I think underneath is more likely because she would have to make a speed figure improvement, a pretty dramatic one, in order to overtake Alpine Princess or even Maxi Superfly. So moving on up, I think can get up underneath and you will get a price. Everland is a nice horse, and this one is a late runner, and I think that's the biggest detriment to Everland winning this race. As I mentioned, the forecast is for cold weather, and it did impact her ability to win against Maxi Superfly in the last race. I thought she ran a good race. I thought she closed well and did show a little more. Her early fractions were improved, which tells me that maybe this horse is on the improve. And I think being on the home track, we can put her in the mix, and she could potentially win it. She'll have to be a little closer to the pace in order to do so, but I think you'll get a decent price, hopefully. And Everland, I think, is one that you need to use. Now, of the late runners, Band of Gold is pace dependent. And when you consider we've got horses on the front end who have a favorable situation, who are not going to be interested in beating their brains out on the front end, I don't think so anyway. I think Band of Gold is really up against it in this race, trying synthetic for the first time. And as Harvey Pack said, you never want to take a horse doing something for the first time. And I think the price is probably going to be short. And again, I don't think there'll be the pace there necessary for Band of Gold to run her best race. So I'm throwing her out, and I think she's going to be an underlay here. Now, Trial, on the other hand, is very interesting because they know Trial as a late runner, and she is to a degree. But if you look at her pace numbers, she's really more of a one-paced type of horse, and has pace fractions to tell me that she should be able to stay in this race and isn't quite as pace dependent as the others. And with the right break, with a move forward, of course, that would be necessary. And you get Luan Machado, who, as I mentioned when we talked about the Jeff Ruby, you just can't leave off tickets at Turfway. He just knows how to ride at Turfway. So I think that's a big plus for Trial's chances, and I think you're going to get a price. So Trial, to me, is a great value play and one that you need to include. And finally, Nothing. I didn't see enough there to tell me that this horse is another one pace dependent, where the speed figures aren't good enough, and I don't think we'll get the scenario necessary for Nothing to factor in this race. So if we take a look at our wagering strategy, I like Trial as our value play. Luan Machado aboard, a horse who's not quite as pace dependent as some of the other later runners, and has fractions to tell me that she can stay in the race, and with the right scenario could take it down. If I don't think we're going to have a pace duel. I can't really see it, but if we did, I think Trial is one that makes a lot of sense here. So we'll go with the value play with number 7. We're going to key box with Alpine Princess on top. I think she is the horse to beat for the reasons stated. The price may be a little shorter than we want, but we've got to, if we're going to cash, I think we need to put her on top. So we'll key box her with 4, 5, 7, and 10. And then we're going to box Alpine Princess with the 7, going for the value play. And if we can get 1-7 in either order home, we double up, and it should pay well, even with Alpine Princess at a short price in the mix. And then for the trifecta, nothing imaginative. We'll just go 1 on top with 4, 5, 7, 10, and go for it, and see if it it bears fruit. So, in sum, I think the weather is going to be a big factor here. It looks to me like early pace runners will have a scenario that's very favorable to them. And for that reason, I think Alpine Princess is the one to beat here.